So, how many folks do we have watching? Christ. It's a very important big lesson just to be for listening to me right. This is not something that you guys should be focused on. And they all tie fund to 10,000 simply on identification focus to I already know, right? So let's get you guys onto the main screen here. So this dude every single week, every single month, every single year. These are the main 8 patterns that I use every single time. So if you guys want to take a screenshot, take a picture, do it on Facebook. I want to see this on TikTok. I'm warning you now if I see watching. So a 17, you're allowed to take screenshots and all that. Let's dive through some of this stuff. So first and foremost, I'm going to get tons of people asking me, what is a harmonic pattern? Market. And these are the footprints. These are et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So these are just mirrors of everything, but this lower side is what the bearish pattern looks like. And the upper patterns are what the bullish patterns look like. Okay. So do you guys talk about something? I just need to make sure that you guys. So when you guys hear me talk about Fibonacci works is based off of Fibonacci's. These numbers that you guys see on the upper patterns, right? I've left the numbers on all of the upper patterns so that you guys can see each one of these patterns and each one of these numbers represents Fibonacci retracements. That's it. And so one of the questions that I get frequently asked is, are we allowed to take a Fibonacci measurement like this? Are we allowed to do this by hand? And I will say this, a lot of you guys use log scale. A lot of you guys are using log scale because I use log scale. If you're using log scale, no. You can't do that. You can't freehand these and draw this like this, right? You can't, no, we don't do that. Okay, and the reason being is because the harmonic pattern tool, when you draw this thing, okay, when you draw that by freehand, it displays the numbers for you. Okay, on these harmonic patterns, it displays the numbers for you. Those numbers are accurate. So use the numbers that are provided through the harmonic pattern tool. Okay, so don't freeball them. Don't just grab your little Fibonacci's and start fucking drawing these things randomly. Use the numbers that are associated with the tool. Okay? Now, what do these numbers mean? Okay, what do each of these numbers mean? Well, if you guys use Fibonacci, you know that they represent Fibonacci retracements. Okay, so here's the deal. The first Fibonacci retracement on the harmonic pattern is the retracement from the X point to the A point. So your X point is always your first initial point that you're taking the harmonic from. That first initial point should be taken from the first propulsion up or down. What do I mean by that? So looking over at Sheeb here, okay, I've color coordinated for you guys. So Sheeb had a deep crab. It was a bullish deep crab. I took the harmonics X point from this low here. Okay, you see that? I took it from this point right here. The reason I took it from that point right there is because that is the propulsion move to the upside. Okay, for some of the people that are familiar with Elliott wave, this is kind of what you would call the impulse wave. Okay, now I don't use Elliott waves, but that's kind of how you would, I'll say, this is how you would say that if you were trying to say that as the information displays it. So this is kind of like your first impulse wave. And then this is the retracement endpoint. Okay. Now, how did I decide that that was the endpoint? Well, when I look at harmonics, now everybody get ready to write this down because this is very important. Harmonic patterns are called droopy M's or droopy W's. Every single harmonic pattern creates either a W or an M shape. And the reason that I decided to take it from this point here is because this was the low point before it made another propulsive move to the upside. And then you can see that it makes a droopy M. You see that? See how it makes that droopy M shape? Every single harmonic pattern makes a droopy M or a droopy W. And so that first initial retracement, this XA to the B, okay, that first initial retracement tells you everything you need to know about what harmonic pattern you're looking at. The difference between harmonics and Elliott waves, they're just not even in like the same playground. It's X to A to B. Why does that retracement tell us everything we need to know about the harmonic pattern that we're looking at? Okay, here's another cheat sheet for you guys. Here's another easy to understand cheat sheet. Okay, what do I mean by droopy? Okay. Well, M's normally make the exact same peak, do they not? And W's also make the exact same peaks, right? Well, these don't. So that's what I mean by droopy M's and W's. So this screenshot here, folks, this is what you can use, okay, as a cheat sheet way of identifying your harmonic pattern. So folks, here, look at this, right? Do this with me. I'm going to turn these numbers on, okay? When we look at this, okay, let's pick an easier one that's easier to understand. When we look at this harmonic here on SPY futures, the X to the A to the B, the retracement is a 0.38. So we open up our cheat sheet and we say, what harmonic structure can be a 382? Well, if we open this up, it says only an alternate bat or a bat. You guys can go ahead and scratch out the or bat. Bats are never a 382. So just go ahead and scratch that out. It's only an alternate bat. So because we know that first initial retracement, this one right here, right, we can automatically identify what harmonic structure this might be. Now, if we just pretend that all this didn't exist yet, right, all this price action here ceases to exist yet, even if we only had that information, we would still know that this harmonic is an alternate bat based on that first initial retracement move. That first initial retracement tells you everything that you need to know about what harmonic pattern it is that you're looking for. So like you guys have seen me on GME, right? So I'm trying, I should have left another one open. So you guys have seen me on GME, right? We've drawn this butterfly, right? So you guys watched the video from earlier this morning. I drew this butterfly, right? Now, how do I know that this is a butterfly? Well, let me ask the chat because some of you guys have done this harmonic stuff. If I open this and I tell you guys that this is a butterfly, what retracement number do you guys think that this is? From the X to the A to the B, if we open up our cheat sheet and I tell you it's a butterfly, what retracement do you guys think that that is? Let's see if the chat box gets it. If I tell you it's a butterfly, what is that X to A to B retracement? Boom. There you go. See, the chat box already picking shit up. And you'll notice that when I turn on the drawings, boom. It's an 832. Now people will say, Jackie, you said it's a 786. What the hell, man? How come? So if we open up our little cheat sheet here, one of the things you'll notice, all right, now where did I write it? Where did I write that? Right here. I allow for 5% deviation for all patterns. That's a really important thing right there. What I just said right there, that's a really important thing. I allow for 5% deviation. So if we head back to GME and we know that this is supposed to be a 786, well, what we do is we open our calculator, type in 786, and then we multiply that by 1.05 to give us 5% up, right? And I hit enter on that and it says 825. Now, if a pattern is within fucking 7 points of that 5%, I'm not just going to write that harmonic off. Right? If it's 1% more than 5, I'm not going to fucking lose sleep over it. These things are relatively tolerant to being within that 5% spec. Okay? And that includes every retracement that you guys see. So each one of these retracements has its own significance. Okay? But just remember that 5% rule is very, 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 very important. Okay? Now, one thing I consistently get asked about is the retracement from this A to B back to C. Everybody asks me about this retracement. Because a lot of the time on these harmonic patterns, these retracements are kind of shit. Like normally the number doesn't really kind of hit any Fibonacci level. For me personally, folks, when I'm drawing these droopy M's, these droopy W's for harmonic patterns, this is the number that I care about the least. Okay, so make sure you write that down. This number is the one that, in my opinion, matters the absolute least. If I had to mark them in order, the most important is the first initial retracement. The second is the completion. The third is the extension of this number, right? The full extension of that. And lastly, this retracement between the W or the M. Okay? Now, I'm going to pause for a minute, and I'm just going to ask, is there any questions so far? Or are you guys doing okay? The daily, IWM on the daily, futures on the daily, XBI on the daily, SNO on the daily, the dollar on the daily, HUBSI on the daily. You'll notice a theme. The larger the time frame, the better the reliability. That is something that I have said to you guys since day one on any indicator, on any chart, on anything that you're looking at. The larger the time frame, the better the reliability. Okay, you guys are getting, see, this is why we didn't want to talk about harmonics before, because you guys are getting way too hung up on like nitty gritty type of shit. You just, okay, I shouldn't ask you guys if you had questions, because now we got way too many questions and this is going to turn into a fucking shit show. So we're just going to, it's not exactly at the wick. Okay, I try and make sure that it's perfectly on the wick. I try and make it as exact as I possibly can. If it's off by fucking 2 pennies, sue me. But yes, I'm using the wick highs, the wick lows. I'm taking it from the lowest point to the highest point of the W. Look, if I move this over here, I'm taking it from the lowest point to the highest point, then back to the lowest point, then back to the highest point from that low, and then that gives me the idea of what that harmonic pattern looks like. Drag this back over here, and you'll see that that red line extends the exact same way that the harmonic pattern does. Okay? So there's one of the 76 questions out of the way. How do you know where to put C? C is the next highest point. Once you make that first initial retracement, C goes to the next highest point. So with Apple, well, let's not use Apple for that one for now. SHIB. This was the lowest point on that 886 completion. And then you have to go to the next highest point. That next highest point is right here. That's the highest point, right? So that's where I place the C. And then you take the completion point to where the harmonic says to, right? So if we go over to our cheat sheet, it says that deep crabs complete at a 1.618. So if we know that deep crabs complete at a 1.618, then when we draw this on SHIB, this should complete at a 1.618. Now, I can't get it exactly, but you guys get the idea, right? So that's how we draw these things. It's going to take you guys time. And again, I told you, you really shouldn't even be focusing on this. This lesson is like, this is way out of a lot of your guys' territory. And I want you guys to focus on like, guys, listen, please. Itty gritty, knick-knack, pity-whack, give a dog. Stop thinking about the small shit. think about what I am telling you. You are trying to identify M and W structures. You know where to take it because the first initial point is supposed to be the propulsion move. So look at IWM. See how the first initial move, now let me just make this not so bolded for you guys. See the first initial move from this low? That's the low, right? And then it makes that big propulsive move up. So that's our first initial move. Now we don't know that there's a harmonic here yet. And then it comes down here, right? And we say, okay, well, this could be a 786. This could be a butterfly, right? This could be a butterfly. And then it makes this propulsive move back up. And so this is the high point of that low that we just made for this number. Okay, so now we have the beginnings of an M, right? A big droopy M. And we know that at a 786, there's only two possible completions. We go to our cheat sheet and we say it's either going to be a butterfly, which completes at 1.272, or it's going to be a deep butterfly, which completes at a 1.618. So if we move this and we go to 1.272, okay, you'll notice that there was a large reaction, but then price continued to push lower. So then we said to ourselves, well, this is likely to become a deep butterfly. And we know that deep butterflies complete at 1.618. So if we put that at 1.618, look at what happens. All of a sudden, it hits that completion zone and it gives us what is called a terminal candle. Okay, now I'm going to hide the numbers here for a second. We get what's known as a terminal candle after the completion point has been achieved. Okay, now what is a terminal candle? Again, I'm sorry if this feels like it's way above your head. Okay, but just hang on tight with me for a minute. All right. Now, when we hit that completion point of a 1.618, we got what's called a terminal candle. A terminal candle is typically one which goes through multiple supports and resistances and then bounces off of it. Okay? Now, to try and not confuse you guys, I'll just say it this simply. Terminal candles typically have big wicks up, big wicks down, but the important thing is that on these terminal candles, price typically recovers to some extent after making the low that it went through. And these candles look pretty wonky, right? You had this one here and this one here. Both of them arguably were terminal candles that had large wicks up, large wicks down, and then they closed. And they closed at a certain point. And then you, again, this is where you use all of your technical analysis. Okay? You use all of your technical analysis to help aid you in a potential trade. Now, I also just realized that this was also probably a shark at 1.2. I'm willing to bet that that was probably a shark, wasn't it? It was. So this was also a shark. That's funny. Sorry. I just realized that in real time. That's funny. So we can also talk about these ones because that's a unique pattern. But anyways, these terminal candles, okay? What these do for me while I'm trading harmonic structures is it adds a level of reliability. When I see a harmonic completion point hit and I don't see one of these wildly reactive candles, I typically just write off the harmonic pattern and I wait for it to find support. Okay? Because a lot of the time when these harmonics complete, if you don't get that immediate reaction, typically those harmonic patterns, then that just tells you you've either drawn it wrong or it's not a legitimate harmonic anymore. Okay? So all of these terminal candles, right, typically have this wild volatility with big wicks up and big wicks down. And when they complete, okay, that is where you begin to start to see a little bit of a reversal. Now, before I move on, is everybody with me so far? I'm just simply not going to be able to answer them all. Questions, it's just listen. Multiple lesson. And so far. And apply what you actual reason for them to reverse. This is another hugely important tip about harmonic structures, okay? So please write this one down, because this is going to be a really, really important thing, okay? Every single harmonic pattern, it doesn't matter what one you trade, every single one must have something to reverse off of. It must have something to reverse off of. Whether it's a support or a resistance or a moving average or whatever. These harmonic patterns must have something to reverse off of. It is a very, very, very rare occasion for a harmonic pattern to be at all-time highs or all-time lows and have a reversal. Why? Because there is nothing in theory to reverse off of. So these harmonic patterns, when you see them complete, they must happen at zones of importance. You'll notice on this IWM example that we bounced off of a macro 382 Fibonacci, right where that harmonic completed. And if I draw a trend line directly across from there, you guys will also notice, look at the support and resistance level that was where that harmonic completion happened. Look at the support. Look at the resistance. Look at that line. Look at how important that line was. To have a harmonic completion at a very significant trend line is exactly the kind of thing that you look for. That's why we made a shitload of money on IWM and Russell 2000 recently, was because of that harmonic structure happening at support. And every single example that we see here, folks, so Apple, look at that support and resistance. Look at it. Look at it beforehand, right? There was a harmonic completion right there. Look at the destruction it caused hitting that area of resistance. Look at futures. If I draw a trend line directly from this completion point, and I erase the pizza sauce drawing I had on here, look at that support and resistance line. Look at how important that was. Every single one of these harmonics had something significant to reverse off of. Every single one of them. Look at the upper red trend line. Look at how important that was. Look at snow. Look at the trend line that this reversed off of. Look at how important that zone is. Look at the dollar. Look at the trend line that the dollar bounced off of. Look at how important that trend line is. Every single one of these harmonics had something to reverse off of. Every single one of them. Now, Hub C was kind of a very, very unique example. And this is why I tell you guys the most reliable harmonics need something to reverse off of. Hub C at the time, right? If we turn the replay thing on, Hub C at the time didn't have anything to reverse off of because it was actually at all-time lows. So we were very fortunate that this worked out for us. Like we truly were blessed that this actually ended up working for us. Because you'll notice now, part of the reason I was so confident in Hub C, right, was because you could argue that we actually had a harmonic completion for a butterfly here. And then you guys see the terminal candles. You see the reactivity out of those candles. That provided a layer of stability and reliability in terms of my thesis on Hub C. If we had not had this reaction, I probably wouldn't have looked at this harmonic the same way that I had. But at the time, we saw the reaction. We saw the terminal candle. We saw the pops. And I figured something was explosive was going to happen. And you guys will see, boom, right? Something explosive really did happen. And that came off the back of a butterfly harmonic completion. Now you guys will ask me, right? How did you know to draw this? Well, if I hide this and we just dark this down, right? Do you guys see the M? Do you guys see the M? Look at it. It's so simple to see. Right? That's a big ass droopy M. And so when I was looking at Hub C, back when we were trading this thing, okay, I was looking when Hub C was about here. And when I was looking at this was all I got to see. But when we turn on the drawings and we turn on the numbers, well, I knew that this was a 786. And so I know that there's only 2 harmonics that complete with that first initial retracement of a 786. It's either going to be a deep butterfly or it's going to be a regular butterfly. So I drew the regular butterfly first, which is 1.272, right? I drew that first. And then we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and boom, we got our harmonic completion. And then look at the reactivity. Look at the large candles. Look at the long wicks. Look at the big explosive move off of that low. I say explosive, that's not a joke. That was 40% that we saw when we were trading this thing. I remember it quite clearly. Some of you guys remember it too because you were in it with me. And then we just waited because we saw the harmonic completion. We took our entry and we said, we're going to live with this. Right? This was I believe this was actually this was like pretty much the exact trade. And we said, we're just going to live with the results. Whatever happens at this stage, we've got our 10% stop. We'll just let it happen. Right? And then you guys obviously see, boom, 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 off we went. And then we fucking won in a big way. Right? That was pretty awesome. And then I think that ended up being like 500%. And all we did with that, right? That was just a harmonic that we drew really, really, really early. And then we waited and waited and waited and waited for price to come to us. We set our limits. We did what we needed to do. And then bang, 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 off we went. So does that kind of make sense, folks? Are you kind of with me on that one? Does using the replay, does that make things a little bit easier to understand? And do you guys now understand why we coined that term, right? Waiting for price to come to us, right? Rather than sitting there and saying, I'm just going to FOMO in because I think that price is going to reverse. You now have potential tools that you can actually use that will allow you to have patience and wait for price to come to you. And you already know, right? Because you've been listening to me. You already know that when price completes at a harmonic, at the end of the harmonic, right? The harmonic completion. When price gets there, you already know that that zone better be a fucking really hard or really important support or resistance level. So just going back to GME quick, right? Look at where that harmonic completes. So this is a butterfly, right? And that harmonic completes all the way back down there at 966, and people are going to go, ah! But if you zoom out, I drew that blue line there for you guys so you could see this. Wait a second, what's that? Is that just so happens where Keith took his secondary position on GameStop? I wonder. Isn't that interesting? Would you not agree with me? And I am not saying that GME is going to go there or any of these stocks. And Ryan Cohen on a completion and full of Fibonacci. This is where you get to actually use the Fibonacci tool to identify your profit targets. Okay? You take the Fibonacci tool from the high of the harmonic. Notice I said the high of the harmonic. And then you go to the low. Let's say the low is right there on GME. Isn't it interesting that one of the indicator targets just so happens to perfectly align with a golden pocket, which is profit target number 2 on any harmonic structure? Isn't that certainly something interesting? Wow, look at my English go. Pew, 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 pew. Isn't that something interesting? Now imagine, rather than FOMOing here, or FOMOing here, or FOMOing here, you get the opportunity to almost perfectly buy the bottom and go back to that indicator target for 200%. How do I know that this is a distinct possibility? We just traded the same thing. We literally just traded one of these. True fucking story. We literally just traded a massive fucking butterfly on GME not that long ago. Oh, and I even made it the right color. That is a massive butterfly. Look at the M. Look at, see? We just traded a butterfly on GME, in which it allowed us to make fucking a gazillion dollars for those of us that locked in profits. And now you're telling me that there's another opportunity. You're telling me that there's another potential butterfly that completes almost at the exact same spot? Why wouldn't I just have patience? Wait to see what these dummies are going to do with GME. Let them play their little games. Let them fuck around. But look at the harmonic structures that happen on GME that allowed us to call bottom. And you hit every fucking profit target on this thing. So here's a quick little tip. Okay, here's a quick little tip for all of you guys. Every single harmonic structure, when you take your profit targets, you draw the fib from the high of the harmonic to the low, or if you're drawing bearish harmonics, right? If you're drawing a bearish harmonic, then you will take the Fibonacci from the lowest point to the completion. And every single harmonic's profit targets are the exact same. It's a 382. It's a golden pocket. And it's an 886. That's profit target 1, 2, and 3. And those profit targets never change. The only thing that changes about them is the Fibonacci's, because you're drawing these harmonics all from different points. So let's go through the examples I've given you. Okay? So first, we've got a deep crab on sheep. We pull the Fibonacci from the high of the harmonic here to the low, drag it across. 382 is profit target 1. Look at that, folks. Ding, 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 ding. Profit target number 1 achieved on sheep. Great work. And then here is one of the most important things that you guys have watched me do every single day now for basically 8 weeks. A harmonic has a reaction, finds resistance, comes back, back tests the breakout zone, and then makes the larger move. And folks, you'll notice if I pull these Fibonacci's across, look at it hit profit target 2 at the golden pocket right here. It's almost like I know what I'm talking about. Isn't that cool? So Sheeb hit both profit targets. Look at what you could have done. First, you could have got that first initial move for 25%. Then you could have waited for the back test, then taken that bullshit again for another 30 to 35%. Easy, free fucking money. Look at Apple. Now, Apple is one of the cases where it did not come back. That's okay. Sometimes you're going to get the trade, and sometimes you're going to miss it. It is what it is. That is the thing of trading. You have to have more patience, and you have to have more calm about you than everybody fucking else. That's how you will find success in this game, is by having patience. And sometimes having patience means that you miss a trade. But that's okay. The fact that you spotted it, saw it, charted it, and it happened is what matters. Sometimes it isn't about just the money made. Sometimes it's about the experience that you gain. True fucking story. And then look at Apple. Look at the terminal candle you got. Look at that. Right at an area of resistance. Big long wick to the upside, and then it came back. And then look at that motherfucker roll. And then you guys can clearly see we hit every profit target off of this shark. Every single profit target on that shark got hit. You hit profit target 1, profit target 2, and profit target 3. Arguably here, or you could even just say here. Every single target got hit on Apple. Every single one. Okay? Now, just a quick little thing about the shark. This is the only, let me repeat, this is the only harmonic pattern that has a C point that is higher than the A. In terms of the ones that I trade, this is the only one where the C point is higher than the A. So you'll see, right? The C point is lower than the A on the bearish, and the C point is higher on the bullish. But this is the only harmonic structure where it makes the droopy W's or the droopy M's, where the second point is either significantly lower or, for the bulls, is significantly higher, right? This is the only one that I trade. There are others, but they're shitty and they suck and they don't perform very well. So that's the only thing. Okay? So just keep that in the back of your minds. Now, we've already gone over the IWM one like 100 times. Now, this is what a bullish shark looks like as well. Okay, folks? So check out the pink. That is a bullish shark. Okay? Now, again, refer to your cheat sheet. What is a shark? Well, a shark, this initial retracement, folks, on a shark, this doesn't fucking matter. Completely ignore that first initial retracement. That one doesn't matter. The only thing that matters on sharks is this. This completion point is either a 1.13 or a 1.618. That's all you need to know. That first initial retracement is either a 1.13, okay, or it's a 1.618. Now, if we open up the IWM one that we were just looking here, you'll see that this is probably close to a 1.13, right? Look at that, 1.132. Look at almost perfect, right? And then the other second part to a shark is this. A shark can complete at either an 886 or it too can also complete at a 1.13. So it could have completed all the way down here, but it didn't. We got the 886, right? So this is why when we draw these sharks or these other harmonics that have two or multiple completion zones, we draw the first one and we wait to see if there is a reaction there. Okay? And then lastly, with a shark, this is the most important part because we ignore this retracement. The extension of this shark must be a 1.618 or a 2.0. That's it. And so this is a 1.618, this is a 1.13, and this is an 886 completion. This was damn near perfect. This was almost a perfect shark. And if you draw the Fibonacci's, this was the point of this, right? We'll draw the Fibonacci from the high point to the low, drag it across. Look at you perfectly tag the third profit target at the 886. Look at that. Look at how perfectly you tag that and then reject it. That's why these harmonic patterns are so powerful. Okay? That's why these harmonic patterns work so well, is because they can help you identify areas where price might also react and reverse off of after you've achieved certain profit targets. Now, one of the things I want to stop and pause about, now I know I'm overloading you with information here. One of the things I just want to quickly stop and pause about, okay, is that you can see I've written percentages in the middle of our cheat sheet, right? Two of them don't have the percentages on them. Now, I could just argue that this is actually, like, this is fine. Okay, you'll see that two of them don't have the percentage numbers in the middle. Okay? Now, here's the thing. What are those percentages? I drew it at the top here for you guys. When a select few of these patterns break a 236 Fibonacci level, they have a certain percentage probability of achieving profit target 1, the 382 Fib. So, when you see an alternate bat breaking a 236, it has a statistical 80% probability of achieving profit target 1. So if we head over to SPY on the alternate bat that we drew here, right? When we draw our fib from this high to this low, when price breaks this 236, it now has an 80% chance of achieving profit target 1. And you'll notice that once it broke, boom, easy peasy. You just got profit target 1. That's the easiest fucking money you'll ever make in your life. And all you had to do was pay attention to the Fibonacci levels that it was breaking. Go back to our cheat sheet. Look at this one. 90% on butterflies. 90%. Well, let's head over to GME because we know we just had one. Look at this, folks. So then we draw Fibonacci from the high to the low. And when it breaks at 236, there is an 90% chance of achieving profit target 2. Folks, it's literally the easiest fucking money you have ever fucking made in your life. That's what those percentages are trying to tell you. And then you'll notice that there are certain harmonic patterns with certainly really high percentages. And that's because the alt bat, the bat, the Gartley, and the butterfly, as well as the deep crab, are the best performing patterns in the market. There are no better patterns that perform better than those ones that have the percentages underneath them. And it's basically like a cheat code for free money. Seriously, I'm not even bullshitting you. Look at Hubsy. Look at this. We'll go back to the Hubsy example and let's pull this replay back. So this thing gets its harmonic completion, right? So let's just play this quick. So it gets its harmonic completion. So we know that we're supposed to take a fib from that high down to this low. And we know that if price breaks this 236, there is a statistical 90% chance of getting to profit target 1. And we play this through a little bit. Okay, well, the next day we gapped up above that 236. And so we said to ourselves in that moment, well, if we could get a retrace, that would be ideal. Most of us were taking a position down here, right? But if we hadn't, on this gap up, right, we would have looked for the retest, and then we would have said that there was a 90% chance of getting to that profit target. Well, if you FOMO'd in the day that we gapped up, and you just YOLO'd it with the 90% chance of profit target number 1, you could have cashed in the easiest 16 fucking percent of your life. And then you could have said to yourself, well, we also have profit target 2 and profit target 3 to go for if it continues to break out. And imagine you took an entry on the FOMO and you got profit target 2, there was 60 fucking percent. Imagine you got to profit target 3 for 137%. Now, obviously, you have to be intelligent and you have to make sure that you protect yourself, moving stop losses up, all that kind of good stuff. But these harmonics allow you the ability to see a little bit into the future, okay? Now, it's not that you're a price predictor or that you're a fortune teller or any of that kind of stuff. It's that you have statistical probabilities on your side. Now, here's kind of why I highlighted these percentages, okay? If you have taken the Fibonacci course, comment right now. Tell me that you've taken the Fibonacci. If you break this 236, what is the percentage chance that you go to a 382? Forget harmonics. A couple of you guys got it. Good. It's 80% probability of you achieving a 0.5 Fibonacci. Let's see if you guys get this one. If you break the 382, what's the statistical probability of you achieving the 0.5 Fibonacci? If you break the 0.5 Fibonacci, what is the statistical probability of you achieving the golden pocket? Okay. Yes, the answer is 40%. Okay? Now, why am I showing you this? Well, we know that these things have certain probabilities of achieving certain Fibonacci targets, correct? And so if we know that these have certain probabilities, and we pair that with the Fibonacci probabilities, suddenly you start to get a clearer picture as to where price could go for potential profit targets. So looking at GME, right? Going back to GME, we knew that when price broke this, we had both a 90% chance because of the butterfly and an 80% chance because of Fibonacci rules, leading us to believe that it was almost a statistical certainty that GME was going to hit profit target 1. And then we saw the next candle break through the 0.5 as if it wasn't even there. So we knew that statistically speaking, butterflies have a high probability of achieving profit target 2 once they break through profit target 1. And we pair that with the 40% probability of the Fibonacci's telling us that. And we were led to believe that there was roughly a 60 to 65% chance of achieving profit target number 2. And then we hit profit target number 2. And then it just exploded all the way up to profit target 3. And then it found a whole shitload of resistance at profit target number 3. And all we did was use statistical probabilities. Now forget the statistical probability of achieving the 886. What is important to know is that price broke through the golden pocket. When you break through the golden pocket, and as it was once resistance, and you break through that, the statistical likelihood after a harmonic completion of then achieving profit target 3 starts to rise rather rapidly, especially when the share price is moving as fast and as volatile as GME was in that moment. And so this is how I pair those probabilities of all the other things we use, whether it's moving averages or RSI or Fibonacci's or harmonics or whatever it is you're looking at. That's how I pair those probabilities with these harmonics and how I can figure where price is likely to kind of stop or go towards or look for profits, etc., right? So does that mostly make sense, folks? When I say break, I want to see the candle open and close above the Fibonacci. Depends on the time frame you're on, but again, larger time frames are more important. But I want to see a break, a body, a candle that opens and closes above these Fibonacci's. That's the important thing to note with breaks. Again, that's in the candlestick pattern and in a couple of the other courses in the thing. All right, so we've got 5 more minutes. I think that's mostly kind of where I want this one to be at. I think for you guys, for homework, the important thing for you guys is going to be to go back on these charts, on any chart, and try to identify harmonic patterns. Okay, now this is where I'm going to move away from the lesson a little bit and just get on a little bit of a personal level with you guys. When I was starting to learn harmonic patterns, okay, I have my notebook here right next to me when I was starting all this stuff, okay? I would go and I would identify 5 or 10 harmonics every single day on a multitude of different time frames. And I would write them down and I'd say, okay, what's this one? And blah, blah, blah. And okay, cool. Like, I didn't really care what they did. It was more so just like identifying the patterns. Because once you start to identify the patterns, you will start to understand why I say droopy M's and droopy W's. Because you'll start opening up any chart, right? So let's just open up any. There we go, right? So I'll just open up any fucking chart and let's go over here, right? And all of a sudden, you'll start to be able to familiarize? I don't think that's a word. Familiarize, that's what I was looking for. You'll be able to familiarize yourself with these structures, right? Now, I don't know if this is a harmonic, but one thing that I can see here is that there is an M here, right? You guys see that? Now, I don't know if this is a harmonic. Let's just draw this. It is. It might be a Gartley. Yeah, it's borderline a Gartley. Now, if it's a Gartley, right, we've got to have 5% completion, right? That's what I said, right? Is there's got to be 5% room for allowance. Now, this is actually not a Gartley because I just noticed that this completes at a 0.695. And that's absolutely horrendous, right? So, no, not a harmonic, right? And we know that because we just drew it. And we saw the numbers and we said, nope, those numbers don't align. It's not good enough. But then what about this? What about this thing right here? This could be an M, right? That could be something. So let's draw that. Let's see if this is anything. Okay, so that completion is 687. And we need a 0.618. So that's probably way out of spec. But it could be a crab. Okay, because crabs allow for a large tolerance for that first initial retracement point. Okay, so even if it is supposed to be a 618, typically with crabs, I will allow for 10%. So if we go into our calculator and type 618, multiply it by 10%, that gives us 680. I'm not going to argue 7 points, so sure, this could potentially be a crab. So the next thing we need to do is find the C point, right? So the C point is 911, which is close to an 886, so that's within spec. And then we know that crabs, right, if we go to our cheat sheet, we know that crabs complete at a 1.618, okay? So if we know that these completed a 1.618, we're going to go back over to whatever fucking stock it was we were just looking at. I don't even fucking remember what that was. And we're going to say, okay, where's 1.618? Okay, there's 1.618. There it is on that candle. And folks, that right there, that's a terminal candle. Now, yes, price gap down the next day. And this is, I really don't want to confuse you guys. This is what's known as the HOP zone. This is the harmonic optimal price zone. This is the area of best support or best resistance in which price looks to reverse off of. If I draw a trend line directly across from here, you'll see that that zone was relatively important back down here. And so when we had this completion of this crab, it gapped to the HOP zone, found support, and then pushed off of it. And then you guys can see that if you even had entered a position on here, you could have been down roughly 10%, but look at the move that it ended up making. And all that simply came off of us looking at just M's and W's. Right now, I know that there isn't a harmonic here, but this right here, this looks like a W, right? Now, I already know that there's not going to be a harmonic there. But that looks somewhat harmonic, right? That's another W. Now, just because it's not a harmonic doesn't mean that we can't just draw it and look, right? So let's see. So this would have been a Gartley because this would have been a 618. So that would have been good. And then let's see this. So we needed this to go to a 786, right? That's where that needed to complete. And it didn't quite get there, right? That's okay. Sometimes you're going to miss them by fucking just a small percentage. This is what I tell you, though, waiting for price to come to you. Identify the best spot to look for a trade opportunity. The best spot wasn't right here where it started to fucking shit itself. The best spot was right here. It just didn't get there. And that's okay. Right? Let's pick another random stock. How about farm? Right? So I just type in random stock here and let's see. Right? Help me identify M's and W's. Let's see. Does anybody see anything interesting in this bit of price action? Let me see. Let me see if the chat box. Do you guys see anything interesting there? Do you guys see what I'm seeing? Do you see what I'm potentially seeing? You guys are seeing a bunch of things. Good. That's good. Look at this, folks. Now, I don't even have to draw this yet to know that this is probably harmonic. I don't even have to draw this. And I'm willing to bet that the completion is on this large-ass fucking candle right here. But let's draw it. Let's see where this ends. Now, I think that this is going to be an alternate bat. I think that this is going to be a 382 or something close. And then this is going to be a 1.13. Watch this. Oh, it's going to be a bat. It's a bat. It's not an alternate bat. It's just a bat. Now, look at that. Look at that, folks. Now, we didn't get the reaction that we hoped to see, right? Even though we had this harmonic structure here, right? We did not get the reaction that we wanted to see. Again, that's okay. Not every single pattern works. It's the identification of the pattern that allows you to find success. Now, even though it had this completion and it did have some nice reactivity, but then it fell off, right? We already know that there is something called the HOP zone, the harmonic optimal price zone. And we identify these areas of important support and resistance. So if we draw a trend line directly across from here, you guys can see just how important that trend line was on price for this stock. All this resistance, all this support, break, resistance, resistance, back test into new support, boom. We had a harmonic completion here, but the best area of support or resistance wasn't found until that blue line. If we pull a Fibonacci, look it. That's a 382 Fibonacci. Why would price reverse in the middle of two different Fibonacci levels? That doesn't make sense. So when we had that harmonic completion, it was better to wait for it to find the best support. And then look at what happens here, folks. I'm willing to bet, I haven't even drawn this yet, right? You guys, we're literally just drawing this together. I'm going to pull a fib from that high to this low, and I'm willing to bet that one of these candles hits profit target 1. Let's see. Look at that, folks. Look at that. Look at that. That is the 382 Fibonacci. That is profit target 1. That is money. 16%. And look at the performance of bats. Look at the performance of bats. 80%. These are strong patterns. Very strong patterns. And then look at the performance that you get. Right? You know what I'm saying? And then look at this little one. I'll bet you this is one too that I probably just missed. This, actually, it's close, but it's not. It should have been a butterfly, but it didn't quite get there, right? So I was looking at this, and it is harmonic, but it didn't give us our completion. We didn't get there. It was a 786, so we knew that these needed to come to a 1.272, and it didn't get there. Once again, that's okay. Sometimes it gets there, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. But if you just solely focus on price and where these harmonics complete, you will find success. But the most important thing that I can give you guys is patience. Patience, 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 patience. And you guys hear me say it 100 times every fucking week. Now do you guys understand why I spam the patience button? Does that actually make sense to you guys now? If you don't use log scale, yes, all of this will work. Of course. I haven't adjusted any of the settings in this tool at all. I don't adjust any of the settings. There is no settings to really adjust. So, folks, I think that's probably going to do it for today's lesson. I think information to take in. And then at the end of that 72 hours, I'm making that so that you have to be Jackie Jacked on YouTube to watch. So you got 72 I've shared with you guys. Increase your skill. So folks, that is it. That is all.